Yeah.
Let's start by talking about what we're drinking. What are we all drinking here? What's the what do
Well,
we got?
I've got water. I'm boring. Yeah.
Mm.
I was gonna have water too, but then I need caffeine, so I grabbed a Code Red because I haven't had one of those in a couple days. So
Mm. Okay.
Yeah, I'm drinking whiskey, so that's fine. Let's
Yeah.
get it going.
Do you need that for this discussion? Is
No,
that something
but I'm
need?
like 4 beers in, so
Oh.
you got to keep the party going.
Well, I've got to say, do you consider that a strength or a weakness? Actually, going into this, is that?
I'll be less inhibited, that's for sure.
So you think you're gonna debate hard, gonna destroy, gonna annihilate
yeah,
in this
and
debate?
then I'll coast on that confidence right onto Bumble and pick up a floozy and magic will happen.
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, in that case, I think it's about time that we kind of get started. I suppose. Let's just see. Let's go for it. So, the initial reason for this tea time and kind of the overarching topic is actually from our brand new guest, Jaffa, actually, who I believe actually has engaged with Nike already with regarding open world builds, and it's what type of build should we be telling the community to play as in the open world for for meta events, hero points, just general events and so on like that. And I think I'll try and kind of give a brief summary of the two positions here. I suppose like it's kind of between more like a team focused, almost like pseudo raid meta-esque thing from Nike with a few adaptations, and I think Jaffa wants to go in more the direction of self-sustaining, self-buffing, more solo capable builds, and that's what his approach. But you know what? I'll tell you what. I think we'll give Jaffa the opening here. Fantastic new guest. Thanks for coming on. What is the discussion? What is the disagreement? What is the debate?
Well, pretty much Nike's got a bunch of these videos up of his open world builds where they're pretty much just, you've got your standard firebrand, like your fire brigade comp, firebrand renegade. It's like your fractal raid comp, or you have your fractal comp or your raid comp with the fire brigade. And he's pretty much changed either one trait in them, either the builds are exactly the same, or they have different food. Fancy that. And apparently those are brand new, completely different open world builds. And so I tried to discuss with Nike. I was like, hey, these builds, like, you've only changed a few things. He goes out there, he's like, oh, I'm sorry you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and all of these builds are different from the raid build. And I'm like, well, they're kind of. And so, like, if you're gonna go for like the team kind of play, the best way that you're going to get as much DPS out of like a team play type comp for open world is just your fractals comp. That's going to be your highest DPS in open world. But if you're going for not team play and just like a solo group, or like just playing on your own, you're better off being self-sufficient in yourself. And if you're such low vitality using one of Nike's builds on your own, good luck trying to solo a hero point. At least any reasonably difficult hero point, you're not going to be able to do it.
Okay.
Is that it? You got anything more? Come on, let's go.
I got a bunch more. It's for the counter argument.
Okay, all right. So I think well, as the debate moderator, I think the best thing to do is to kind of throw over to Nike for his opening statement in this debate. You can of course respond to that as you see fit. What was wrong with that? Was there anything wrong with it? Do you agree?
Well, for starters, yes, of course, my raid builds, because surprise, raid builds are what you want to run when you want to maximize your DPS. So maximizing your DPS in the open world is also going to look a lot like maximizing your DPS in raids. So it's not surprising that they are very similar to raid builds.
So why not just
raid the reason that you don't run just raid builds is because there are times where different traits or slightly different gear or slightly different food changes the nature of it in a way that makes it much better for open world. For example, Firebrand, which you brought up, way better in open world to run Firebrand runes than in raids where you're going to run Renegade runes. Like, it's just better in open world to run Firebrand runes. And I'm sorry if that doesn't make it enough of a new build for you.
You run Firebrand runes in the meta raid.
No, you don't. So, again, you should go to snowcrows.com and look at their Firebrand quickness build, and you can see what runes they recommend running, and you will see that it's Renegade.
Okay, watch this. We go to snowcrows.com. Builds. Guardian.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Condition quickness.
Oh, shit.
Standard variant. Full Vipers. Firebrand rune.
Oh, I guess they changed it.
Okay.
But...
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Your open wheeled Firebrand build is exactly 100% the.
Yeah.
Your Alacrity Renegade build is 100% exactly the same as the benchmark by Majestic Noodle, who benchmarked the build and made.
This came out after I made my video.
No, it didn't.
I'm sure it did.
It has always been Firebrand.
No.
The highest benchmark has always been with the Firebrand runes since the whole Firebrand grade with the Renegade came. Has always been Firebrand runes. You are just wrong.
Well, I mean, regardless.
Well,
of that,
obviously, I don't have access to the site history, so I can't show you. But you can check that they were advocating Renegade runes with the oil as the only thing you need in raids.
Well, I think that.
And so what? Like, again, okay. Back up.
Yeah.
Who cares if they're very similar to raid builds? Who cares? Like, does it matter if they're similar to raid builds? It shouldn't. Like, of course, raid builds are very min-maxed. Like, they're very good at maximum DPS and maximum boons. Like, that's the point. That's the point. So, shocking that it's not shocking at all that the builds are going to be very similar. Guess what? When I come out, when I post the Hollow build, Hollowsmith build, it's going to be very similar to the raid build. Like, it's not a surprise because it's not like there's like a crazy whole other build out there that's like waiting to be found. It's going to be super similar. So, like, I don't care that it's similar to the raid build. Like who cares? Like, the whole point is that this is what people should run in the open world, and they should. Like, you should. Like, I mean, what's the counterpoint that we shouldn't run Firebrand runes in the open world? Like, was I wrong? Like, no. The answer is that I should. In fact, you should run Firebrand runes in the open world. Like, that's like they're like, what's the debate there? Like, who what's the other side? Am I wrong about that, or should we run something else?
You're advertising this as a new open world build.
Where do you see new? Where do you see new? Where's the new coming from? These are just my recommendations for what should be in the open world. I mean, I never said I was like reinventing the wheel. I was just saying that they're better than what's on Meta Battle, which is the entire point, because the Meta Battle open world section was hard trash.
Well, no, to kind of steer this back, I think what the actual discussion is like, it's not really relevant. It's not exactly relevant if it's a new build or if it's Nike's build or Snowcrow's build or whatever, right? Like, I think the point that Jaffa is trying to make is that, say if you tried to engage in solo content, or you don't play with other players that synergize particularly well with your Firebrand build, you're going to have a pretty rough time. Say if you're, for example, one of it might have been actually a really great build for, say, open world content is always like Condi Necro, right, or Power Reaper or something, right? Okay, with loads of minions to tank their damage for you, or loads of lifesteal with blood magic, right? Like, it's really good at soloing things. And honestly, if you play it well, would say if you play like Condi Scourge with a bunch of minions, blood magic, and Viper gear, you're still going to do pretty respectable DPS. And that's a very extreme example of like what Jaffa's talking about, like, you don't have to fully commit to being a tank beast, right? To have a bit of sustainability. But I think what Jaffa wants is not necessarily min-max for full DPS, but kind of a balance between offense and defense, that the builds can function on their own, right? And you can solo some hero points, even the HOT ones, which are a bit harder. You can solo that, but you can also pull your weight in, say, a meta event that may actually require a bit of DPS on some, bit of usefulness from you. Right? I think that's kind of the point. Would that be fair to say, Jaffa?
Yeah, I suppose so, because your average Guild Wars 2 player skill clicks and keyboard turns. That is your average Guild Wars 2 player. And if your average Guild Wars 2 player was to pick up one of Nike's quote-unquote open world builds and goes to try to do their hero points, they're just going to die. They're going to spend all of this money, gear up their open world build, which Nike has promoted, and they're just not going to be able to survive with it because it's a higher end build for mainly for raids put in the open world where your average player is just going to die with it. The open world build should be brain dead easy for the casuals, okay? Like,
I mean, they already
try to
have that. You hit the level 80 boost and you put on your soldier's gear and you just use that. Like, so, like, what's the step past that?
But Soldier's Gear is arguably trash, like actually
Yeah.
garbage. You
Even I
get
agree with that.
get a good stat set that actually has that has offensive power and maybe some survivability. Like the best idea I can think of, like the most overpowered open world build, would be Trailblazers with Trailblazers Necro with like Epidemic Fleshworm and like all of you. So you're pretty much the raid build in Trailblazers.
Yeah.
Though you swap Soul Reaping for Blood Magic. You have like a 2k heal whenever you apply 5 bleeding. You have Transfusion, you can save all your friends. You got Blood is Power, you can buff people. You have Self Fury, and you have Parasitic Contagion. So you can't die with that thing if you're doing anything close to like auto attacking.
Well, I totally agree that Trailblazers is a completely broken stat set. It's very underused, but
it's actually quite close to the raid build. Actually, if you play a Trailblazer with Undead Runes, I think it's like surprisingly.
You're only like
close,
6% worse DPS on Scourge with Trailblazers than you are with Vipers. Like it's very close.
Then your survivability skyrockets.
Yeah,
like you go from.
I just don't care about solo roaming like that. Like I didn't design like the builds that I'm posting have nothing to do with solo roaming. And then I guess the other thing is that I don't care about what makes killing a veteran at a hero point in POF easier, because that's very easy as it is. If you have Raptor unlocked and you have the dismount skill, like you can pretty much solo anything in the game with the Raptor dismount skill and whatever your first skill on your weapon bar that's good is. Like if you're in Berserker gear, like nothing lives past that besides like a champion. And in fact, there's no champion in the open world that isn't designed to be group content. Every champion in the open world is group content. That's if you look at the meta. If you look at the event, like if you go to Curse Shore and there's the champion giant roaming around, it says group event. So like that's not designed to be soloed. It's easy to solo if you're an experienced player, but it's not designed to be soloed. It's definitely group content. So as far as killing veterans in the open world, like, yeah, I don't think it's right to tell people to make their whole build based on face tanking veterans if they're trying to have a slightly higher level of play. And if you just installed the game last week, run whatever. Like I like whatever it takes to survive. That's perfectly fine by me. But it's annoying that when people show up to meta events and they're pulling less than 1,000 DPS on Shaq Garant, obviously or less than 1,000 DPS on Octavine, which is even more of a DPS golem. Obviously, they've got some significant issues with their build, and that they need to sort out. And that goes like even auto attacking in Soldier's Gear, you're going to do more than 1,000 DPS. So there's something weird going on there, like beyond. So that's the problem. Like that's what's got to be fixed.
Maybe, but then again, maybe not as well. I think some players, like even with a proper build, even with boons, will kind of do almost nothing. To be honest, like, I think just not attacking and not knowing what to actually do is a bit problematic. I think there are some good points on both sides here, certainly, and this is especially true. I think the question I kind of want to ask is like what this kind of comes down to. Like, suppose you've got like 5 or 6 random players. Okay, will they be more likely to be able to kill something if they're all running like ultra tanky self-sustaining, like self-buffing builds, or if they're all running like team, effectively raid builds, right? That do a lot of damage, have 25 might buff, stuff like that. I know what is the best solution there, because the thing is about open world is that once you start scaling up the players, it quickly becomes irrelevant, right? Okay, like to be honest, if you've got a 50-man Zerg and you're running around doing stuff, it doesn't matter what you run, right? Everything is gonna get absolutely just annihilated, right? Okay, like in a way, we're talking about a slight, almost like a bit of an edge case here, really. In a lot of sense, in open world, there are a lot of situations where it really doesn't matter what you do. I mean, like, it's true that it can be annoying if people are doing 1k DPS on Octovine, but you'll probably beat it anyway. I mean, these events don't really fail. I think it's a real shame that we don't have more difficult events, right? Because I think if there was stuff like Triple Trouble, right, but even harder than Triple Trouble, right, where it actually required players to contribute, I think that would be really interesting, because then that guy doing 1k DPS is a bloody slacker and he's screwing you over, right? Again, that would be pretty bad.
Like, take the guy doing 1k DPS. If you play Chrono, like, just with the buffs that you're going to put on that guy doing 1k DPS, you're going to double or maybe even like triple his DPS. Like, it's that impactful. Like, giving him quickness just quickness alone is insanely powerful. I'd say might is probably, like, going from 0 to 25 might is the most impactful thing you can do in open world. And then quickness is probably the second most impactful, and then fury probably third most impactful. So, like, I get you were saying, like, take 5 random people. If one person was giving 25 might to all 5 people, that's probably, and then while simultaneously doing DPS, that's probably the best case scenario.
So it's basically fractal meta with a Condi Druid.
Except fractal meta is completely 100% reliant on GGing at a respawn node and pre-stacking buffs. I mean, but
that's why I say have a Condi Druid.
Yeah, except Conjure Druid can't, like, really, well, it doesn't really do anything. But
it does.
It does like 8k DPS. It's terrible. Like, it's a trash build.
It's more like 16, but okay.
What is this?
Like 16. I mean, okay, it benchmarks at 16, but, like, you're not going to do that in any real boss fight.
But when we're talking open world, see, I'm so split with you guys right now, because when we're talking open world, what you guys are arguing is DPS versus sustain and multiple people versus single play. And then in an open world, those sort of mash together. Right now, we're hearing the two sides of the story. And I don't know. You guys are arguing good points, but your experiences, I think, are a little different with what the builds have been doing and what builds you run with. And so now we get into this. Like, yesterday, I was mapping, and it's a lot of solo play when you map. And, of course, I'm running a Deadeye, and I'm hitting on those points, Nike. I'm getting 25 stacks of Might. I have quickness going on. I got the Fury, but I'm also running Sustain. I'm getting that good, region in there. I'm getting that protection. I'm getting that stuff that keeps me alive, whatever I run into with the Deadeye. But at the same time, that is solitary play. That build will do nothing for anyone else. But it would be effective in the open world, versus if you were playing something that did give more boons and things out and did high DPS. So I don't know. This is a great conversation to have.
I wouldn't fault you even for running that while you're soloing around. But then once you decide to do, like, TD meta or Octavine or Death Branded Shatter or what have you, if you changed to Boon Share Deadeye or changed to DPS Daredevil, you would probably be overall more useful. And that's the point that I have. Like, when you do those things, like, if you have the ability to change, you probably should. Like, I don't think it's, like, a great deal different to run Boon Share Deadeye at certain places if you have the gear for it, and with build templates, it's relatively easy to do. So why not? Like, why not run a build that's just going to... And really, the thing to look at it is, if you can make a build that self-buffs and gives yourself quickness, like, sure, that makes your fun more. But if you can buff other people with quickness, including yourself at the same time, you're making their fun more, because it's way more fun to play the game with quickness. Like, try playing the game without quickness and then playing it with quickness and then going back to without. Like, I'm pretty sure most players would agree that quickness is pretty great, and it's hard to play without it once you've had it. So it's a situation where everyone's fun is more if everyone has perma quickness that's around you. And why not, if you have the option to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think maybe we can see perhaps a new approach, kind of maybe some common ground moving out of this. For example, I think it's a really good point there that you made about the trait swapping there. For example, like, you're say that Zorric is on his Deadeye, he's solo, or there's like 3 guys, not that many players. Okay, he can just go boom. Okay, I'm gonna get go in critical strikes, and I've got what's it called? The crit trait. That means he's going to be able to stay himself. He can self-buff with the Deadeye as well. He's going to easy 25 might, quickness and fury and some even protection as well, actually, when you get like the full malice as well, right? So you can self-buff there. And then as soon, okay, as he gets into he could if he wanted to, as soon as he gets into an organized event, he can just crank up that DPS, get the AoE might going as well, okay, and then boom, he's by changing the traits, he has become an event-destroying beast, and perhaps that could also happen as well on other builds. I think you could see this with Necro, right? You could play, say, I don't know, you could play like Trailblazer Necro or Viper Necro. Honestly, they're both acceptable, right? And then you could play really defensive traits while you're running around an open world. You can play maybe some death magic and blood magic with minions or something, right? To make sure that you don't die, and you can handle things even if you're in it alone or in a relatively small group. And then when you arrive at the meta event, you can suddenly go, aha, you know what we need right now? We need curses, we need soul reaping, we need damage, okay? We need epidemic, okay? Lingering curse instead of parasitic contagion, for example, right? You can kind of swap that around. So maybe a good solution would be to almost like posit less aggressive gear types, right? Less aggressive gear types, and maybe some like more defensive potential there. So it has a bit of sustain, a bit of survivability, and then you kind of posit these trait swapping options or something like that, or maybe you swap a few pieces of gear, swap a few weapons, something like that. That would be. That could be pretty interesting, actually, to go that way, go the way around. Also, this guy said, I feel my testosterone turned to estrogen watching this. Well, actually, fun fact, it goes the other way around, dude, okay? So I've got some really bad news for you, dude, okay? Oops. Yeah, that's biology, guys. There you go. Anyway. Okay.
So one thing, someone says, what's the point of buffing pressing 1? If you are giving might, fury, and quickness, like say maybe you're playing a firebrand and you are giving might, fury, and quickness, you are doing a lot to that guy who's pressing 1. Like, you're benefiting him quite a bit. Like, instead of doing, like, let's say you're just, the guy's playing, like, I don't know what, he's playing like an exotic power reaper, like just doing whatever with his greatsword, auto attacking, noodling, whatever. And all of a sudden you give him might, fury, and quickness. Now all of a sudden the guy is doing like very respectable, decent DPS. So there's a lot, and then you multiply that by 5 to 10 guys. Like, there's a lot to be said for buffing those guys at the event, even if all they're doing is auto attacking. I mean, might is really fucking good. The difference between 0 might and 25 might is a very, very lot of damage multiplied by 10 players. Like, it's really, really good.
Yeah, no, it absolutely is. Especially when you can, as you say, when you consider how many players you apply it to, right? Like, it's 750 power, right? 750 condition damage on one player. But think about that across 10 players, right? That's 7,500 power, right? 7,000. Now you're talking, right? That's some serious DPS increase, and that's kind of the nature of buffing in Guild Wars 2. Like, one player can affect a huge amount of others. But I think the kind of the core issue, to steer it towards that is if you look at a lot of meta events, stuff like Chat Garant, Tequatl, right, or the open world stuff, I don't know, just any of them really. Like even something like Palada one, right? Like the newer Living Story one, Thunderhead Peaks. Okay, do you know what you see? You see a lot of dead people. Okay, right, and maybe if they had some,
Heal Scourge.
What?
Heal Scourge.
That's
Easy.
That's a pretty good one. Yeah.
But how do you convince someone not? How do you convince someone? How am I going to say this? The average player, I don't know, is going to be not lazy enough to change their build on the fly. Even if they're going meta to meta to meta, that's my worry here. That if they run Nike's build, you're going to have one thing. And if they're running the other side of the spectrum, you're going to have another thing. And so when you run into these, I guess the question is, does it even matter? Because, yeah, we can convince them to run these things, but are they willing to go the full effort to get the meta to run effective? And a lot of times I'm going to say no to that because we see the dead people. We see the DPS die because someone isn't sustaining them. We see like these players just standing in the donut. And it's like, why are you standing in the donut? and it's that kind of stuff. How can these builds fix that? I don't think you can. It just comes down to the player, right?
Well, so my point would be you don't need everyone in the Zerg running a good build. Like, that's the secret, is with one Tempest, you can make enough might for, if you use aristocracy runes, you can make enough might for 15 players. So you only need one good Tempest for every 15 players to might stack everybody in the Zerg. You only need one warrior for every 10 players to drop banners to be effective. So if you look at a 50-man Zerg, 5 good players can 100% carry that entire Zerg if they have the right build. So it's not about making the players that have no clue what they're doing run good builds that they are completely incapable of playing. It's about the 5 people that know what they're doing to run supportive builds that will make everything better for everybody.
So they're just playing the support builds from a raid comp, and everyone else is the DPS. So your open world builds would just be the support builds from a raid comp to carry everyone.
Yeah, except certain ones are terrible. Like Druid is goddamn god awful in open world. Like, has no point. But
other than Druid, like Chrono, Firebrand, Renegade, they're all just the supports, and Warrior as well. They're all just the supports from a raid comp. And then instead of having your raid DPSs, that's just the open world pugs. So they're not open world. So
yeah, there are DPS builds that are worth running too that are different than the raid DPS builds. But like certain things in raid DPS is way better, and then in open world other DPSs are better. But yeah, I mean, it's not surprising that raid builds are the best DPS builds you can run, and raid support builds are the best support builds you can run. Like, who's surprised by that? Like, if it wasn't like that, that would mean that raid players aren't thinking about their builds well enough. And clearly, they're the ones that think about their builds the most. So, of course, their builds are going to be the best. And so a slight variation on that to make it even better for open world. Like the meta chrono build does not use 100% boon duration in raids, as far as I know. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe Snowcrow's updated their website recently. And I'm wrong about that.
It's around 70.
Yeah. 70%. So, but in open world, I don't think, I would imagine that 100% boon duration is probably a better proposition for bigger groups.
That's what you aim for as solo chrono, even in raids. So if your solo chrono solo chrono mo, your 100% boon duration is that.
Yeah, but that's not a pug. That's not a typical pug experience. I don't think that, and it should be though. Every pug should be running 100% boon duration chrono, but that's another debate. That's a debate with Snowcrows. But anyway. But yeah, it's not a surprise. Like I never said that the builds I'm advocating were like these original things that are like completely genre busting, like no one's ever thought of these things. Like I never made any claim to originality. These are builds that are good that are slightly modified to be better for open world. Like what's the shocking revelation there? Like I wasn't trying to like be like, I wasn't like trying to blow anyone's mind with the idea that Firebrand is good in open world. Like, is that if anyone was surprised by that, then that's on them, I guess. But
okay,
the builds that don't even have to be modified. You could take the raid builds, put them in open world, and that actually be better than your modified open world builds.
In what situation?
In all the situations.
Which build is the raid build better in the open world than what I suggested?
Well, your Firebrand and Renegade are exactly the raid builds, so I mean, technically those would be better than the open world builds because it's the same build. And your Warrior, you're taking Phalanx Strength for Might, but if you're running the Might God Tempest, do you really need Phalanx Strength? No, you don't. You don't need that on your Warrior.
Of course, because you're
not going to need Might on your.
You would. Well, you might actually, because the Phalanx Strength. Or the Tempest build can only might stack on 15 players. And there's 50 people potentially in the Zerg. So every might stack matters. Everything's beneficial.
So, but if you're having a Warrior for every 10 people, like you said, and a Tempest for every 15, that Warrior is within the 15.
Again, but I'm not talking about an organized group of 50 players that are organized and running the same build. I'm talking about you rock up to a meta event with 49 random players, and what are you playing, and what do you pick to run? What should you run? Like, that's what I'm suggesting. Like, would you not, if you were running Power Warrior and you showed up completely randomly, would you not run Phalanx Strength? Would you run Powerful Synergy? Like, that would be kind of weird, wouldn't it?
You can keep yourself buffed with might and stuff anyway.
And yeah,
you're gonna get random might. Like if you join like a completely unorganized chat, Garrett, most of the time you're gonna have 25 might, fury, swiftness, maybe protection, maybe quickness.
Maybe your experience is different than mine, but that's definitely not a given unless I'm doing it myself. Unless I'm there.
Yeah, I think it can be a very mixed bag in World versus. In open world, it can be a very mixed bag, right? You know, it really can. Sometimes it can be really good, right? But sometimes it's not. I think might is fairly common-ish. Yeah, because like a lot of stuff.
Yeah, you're never gonna have zero might for sure. You're never gonna have zero might. I mean, that would be weird. Like, there's something going way wrong if you have zero.
Yeah. I think there's something to be said for a very interesting point that Nike made, though, I think, and this is worth talking about, I think. The kind of person who is going to search for a build, and find Nike's content, right? Find those videos, is a more dedicated player, right? Okay, and perhaps a more competent player. And what Nike was saying is that you have the five people who are running these builds, running these support builds: Chrono, Firebrand, the Warrior, stuff like that, right? The Tempest, okay, and they see they see this and go, aha, nice, and then they play the build well and they hard carry the rest, right? So it's not going to be everyone running this to a certain extent. You know, as Zorric said, right, there are some players who are very casual. They just want to play the build that they find they enjoy thematically, right? That they think fits their character, stuff like that. And that's absolutely fine. You know, of course, it's not going to be optimal. That's just how it is, right? Okay, but it can be made stronger by more dedicated players who want to be efficient, do more damage, apply more boons and stuff like that. So it's not all of the players who need to run these builds, right? So not everyone is running around on full squish, right? And I think what another point that Zorric made, which is a very good one as well, is that even if you had people running these ultra tanky, even if everyone was running meta builds in open world, in open world, everyone was playing heal builds, like there were heal LEs all over the place, heal scourges, you'd still have people dying. And honestly, some players on these builds would be totally bloody useless as well, because they wouldn't know how to play them. They'd just be like pressing random buttons and not understanding what they're actually doing, right? So that's not what Nike is trying to create here, right? It's more like, okay, if you're fed up we're doing no DPS in open world events. You play the Nike build, and then you go boom. You carry the team, you do massive damage. Okay, you go in there with your 5 crew, you one burn the South Octavine. You know what I'm saying? Okay, and that's I think that's so. I mean, I think what we need to do is like, Jaffa, what is your main contention here? Like, what's the debate? Okay, what are you hitting Nike with? You got to hit him with something, because I think the chat is getting a bit confused as to what you're kind of driving at here. Okay, you just got to lay it down. You got to lay down the smack right now. Debate. Let's go.
Best thing for open world, raid/fractal meta. Best thing for that's group open world meta events. Best thing for solo open world is something with, say, like 80 or 90% offensive, 10 or 20% self-sustained defensive, whatever, and then that would be your solo build. And if you have, say, you've got some random pug running around, they want one build for their open world. Like if you have some pug with, say, one of Nike's builds, they're running around doing their open world DPS stuff, and they're like, oh, there's a random play over here. Quick, I'm gonna stat swap and change my traits here so I can buff this player. Oh, look, I'm buffing him, and then that player's gone away. Then he's on his own again. It's like, oh, I'm gonna stat swap and be solo again, or not stat swap, trait swap. And so you should have, if you're going to do open world meta events, try hard, raid/metacomp, and if you're doing solo group, you should have, like I said, your solid solo build, not a full healer, because that's just kind of dumb. Just a solid solo build. And even if you have a group of all solid solo group people doing an Octavine, and then you have another group of some of Nike's builds and the random pugs doing all their Octavine, the difference in the kill time is it's like under a minute. It's nearly nothing. It pretty much doesn't even matter at that point.
Oh, I disagree. There's one burning south is way more important than a few seconds. Like that's just what makes it worth doing. One burning Newhawk or Rattling is what makes Jack Garrett worth doing.
And you can one burn them with your solid solo group builds, and it's honestly really hard to judge someone's open world DPS. Like you look at some pug, like, oh, that pug's bad. He's only doing 1k DPS, but that pug may or may not have been getting auto attacked by some random chuck off on the side for the past 3 minutes, and then by the time he started DPSing, that past 3 minutes of 0 damage of waiting for the boss to spawn accounts to some of the DPS he's going to be doing. So he may be doing 30k DPS, but because the past 3 minutes he's been getting auto attacked by some random chack, it looks like he's only doing 2. So you cannot realistically look at your DPS charts in open world and say, oh, that guy's doing 1k DPS, when he may or may not have been in combat.
Okay, maybe one guy isn't, but what about the 8 other guys doing 1k DPS? Like, I mean, there's a whole sea of people that, like, the averages will bear out in the long run, will they not? Like, one thing I would say is I don't disagree with you that most super casual players, only want to run one build and they don't want to change. But I would go even a step further, and when we're talking about players of that level of casual, that's not only the build they want to run in PvE, that's the build they want to run in World v World. And they're only going to have one set of gear for World v World as well. So I don't care about that player. The guy who runs one set of gear and plays the same exact build, traits, and everything in World v World and plays it in PvE, that guy is so not the target audience of what I'm trying to do that I don't care to change his mind. When it's the old saying goes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears. I'll be here advocating good builds by myself. And when that guy is ready to have a good build, he will find the builds.
He'll find it on Smoke Rise.
Yeah, he'll find it one way or the other. Yeah, he'll find it one way or the other.
I have a question for Jaffa. Are you sort of saying that Nike making these videos are sort of just a waste of time when you could just find it somewhere else and change it to whatever your need is?
You can find all of his builds on Snowcrows or as off meta, because his Might God Condi Might thing, whatever that is actually an old build from Ren when Druid Grace of the Land got nerfed to Might, and that Might God Tempest is exactly the same as this old Renegadus Might for low mans. So all of Nike's builds are pretty much either current Fractal or Raid meta builds, or they are a past Raid meta build. In which case, why do you have to look at Nike's videos? Those builds are there, they exist, they are the same.
Yeah, but
so it is essentially just a waste of time. It's like,
yeah, I've never claimed they were like new original things. Like the Tempest thing was from, like you said, is from years ago, but it just happens to be still really good in open world. Like it's a very good open world build. So why not suggest it to people? Like there's plenty of people who installed the game. Okay, so people that installed the game a year ago that had no idea of what the meta looked like when warriors were the main might generators would have no idea that build existed. They wouldn't know what to look for. It's not on Meta Battle, which is where most of the casual players seem to get their builds from. So I don't see the reason. If people are going to YouTube and they search for Tempest build open world, I hope that my video comes up, because at least that will point them in a slightly better direction than whatever else is out there on YouTube. So I don't particularly care if it's not original. Like I never claim to be inventing these builds. So attacking me and saying they're not original or that they're somewhere else, like great. Like I'm just like Teapot was saying, I'm amplifying the signal. I'm boosting the wave. If we can get more Firebrand players to run a good build, then good. Like if I'm saying it and Snowcrows is saying it, maybe the person will take that into consideration and go, wow, I'm hearing it from a lot of different angles. So maybe I'll run a good Firebrand build. Like they won't run some weird shit like fucking Valkyrie's Firebrand. Although that wouldn't actually be terrible. like you could run Power Firebrand with Valkyrie's gear and all the crit traits and have a pretty decent build. But
that would actually be a really good open world build.
Yeah, for solos. But
and even in group, it would still be really good. So
it would just be like 10k DPS less than running Viper gear. But
if you compare it to the power boon, power quickness, and Valkyrie quickness, the difference would be just that little precision, which is made up for in the retail because you overcap anyway. So if you have power quickness Firebrand, which is 23, 24k, I can't remember the exact number. If you swap that to Valkyries, your survivability has skyrocketed. And then you'll probably still be 20 to 21k DPS. That's still a decent number. It is comparable to the raid meta build, but your survivability has skyrocketed. So you've got very good in group play, very good in solo play. That's a good build.
Well, when you say comparable in DPS, I think you're probably like 25% lower going from the Condi Firebrand build to like a Valkyrie's Firebrand build. Like I will give you that the survivability is quite a bit better, but the DPS is not comparable. Like I mean comparable. Like if we're talking about killing a veteran mob in the open world, sure, like everything dies instantly. So like that's why I didn't bother making builds for solo play, because veteran mobs in the open world die instantly when you use your dismount skill on them and then one weapon skill. So that's not particularly intriguing to theorycraft for. Dismount skills have completely broken that whole aspect of solo play anyway, as far as I'm concerned. Like they completely nullified like anything about killing trash mobs, any difficulty that might be there.
And I think another thing is like this is the kind of the solo gameplay is very much a bit of an edge case, no? Most of the time, you'll be in a group. There will be players around. No. Actually, would you not say that, Zorric?
Well, you got to think. There's still mapping. There's still people doing hero points and things. So you get away from those metas and those group events. Even when I'm mapping, I find myself at events alone more often today than I ever have. And so if it comes to like completing hearts and things, these open world builds aren't really going to address those. And it would be hard to make a build, I think, that would. But if you're just doing world bosses, then we can get into the nitty gritty of it. And so when we talk meta open world, especially meta events, then yeah, this all makes sense. But then Jaffa makes a little more sense when you're not doing that stuff. If you're just running someplace, doing hero points and things, more survivability tends to be the acceptance because hero points get hard, especially in HOT, or hearts. Like just doing mapping the last couple times I've done it, the map seemed pretty empty. Otherwise, like beetle events or whatever may drag people over. Like the newer stuff, the metas, yeah, there's going to be people there, but I don't really experience a lot of group play away from that. So I don't know. I would say, like, if you're running a Nike's builds, it would work to a point, but at the same time, I have to fall to Jaffa here that you might be alone a lot, especially with the living story coming out, story playing, that kind of stuff. If they are adding harder content, your build could transfer over easier than maybe some of the raid builds could. But that's probably a whole different debate too.
Yeah, so you could, I guess, with that kind of topic on mind, you could have, say, your world boss builds and then open world builds, have them like different, even though world bosses are technically in the open world, they could be separate types of builds. So you have your, I'm mapping, I'm doing hearts, I'm solo event, doing solo events, trying to get my mastery points, I'm soloing all this stuff. You'd have a very solid, good solo open world build. And then if you're doing world bosses, only doing world bosses, that's the only open world content you ever do is world bosses. You can just take your raid build there. Like you can take your Burn Crone, you can take your Renegade, take your Firebrand, your raid comps there. You can just take it to those world bosses and carry the world bosses with your raid build. And then for, like I said just before, your solo open world play, hearts, solo events, getting your masteries up, training yourself up, getting all your XP in that, a very solid open world build that has self-sustainable and good damage.
Well, I appreciate you finally agreeing with me. There we go. I think we settled it. Yeah. Like, so again, so one facet that people should definitely remember about the solo stuff is, so as far as like Trailblazer gear is completely broken, and I think everyone would agree with that. Like with Condi builds, you only need 2 stats to do basically like 90% of your max DPS. You need condition damage and expertise. So Trailblazers is fucking broken. So if all you care about is not dying and running around the open world and you're playing a Condi build, you should 100% be wearing Trailblazer gear. Berserk, like power builds are a little bit different in that you need 3 stats to do max DPS. And there's only 2 professions that have enough, there's only 2 professions that have enough crit boosting traits to make running a defensive power set worth it without giving up too much DPS. And that's Guardian and Necro. Reaper and Guardian can run like Valkyries or whatever the toughness equivalent, Cavaliers or I think, or Captains, something like that. They can run those and get away with it because they have 50% crit boosting traits. But if you're running like Ellie and you're running Valkyries, you're screwed. Like your damage is going to be significantly less. So with Condi, it's a lot easier to recommend Trailblazers. And in fact, I probably you could take the Firebrand build that I recommend, like the quote unquote raid Firebrand build, and run Trailblazers if you wanted and be just as good pretty much at any meta event. Because Trailblazers is broken. But if you took like DPS Raid Weaver, and instead of Berserker gear, you chose to run Valkyries or Cavaliers, your damage would be worse. Yeah, but
You'd take Marauder.
I wouldn't run Marauder. I would run the Adept trait in Weaver that gives you like 50% more HP, and all you have to give up is like one trait.
Is it 15% crit, I think, you'd give up on weakened targets?
Yeah.
Marauder has more precision than Berserkers, plus Vitality. So you'd easily make up that as well. So if you all of a sudden you've got some like 22k Ellie with a little bit less power than the raid meta Ellie. All of a sudden, that's so much more survivable straight off already.
Yeah, and I mean, whatever you want to do with soloing hearts or whatever, I mean, that's fine. If you need Marauder's gear to not completely die, then you should do whatever you have to do to not die. I mean, if you need to run Knight's gear to not die, that's what you should do. But I don't think that's necessarily an issue for people that are to the stage of what ascended gear should I craft? What should my end game build look like?
Oh, you'd be surprised.
Well, I would argue that those people aren't at end game. The people that need Knight's gear to not die at every veteran mob they come across, they're perennially at like the beginning of the game. Like they're never going to hit an end game. And that's fine. Like that's perfectly reasonable. Like you can play chess your whole life and never get to the master level. Like that's completely reasonable, isn't it? So like it's totally reasonable to be at that stage for your whole career.
Yeah, and I think one of the issues we're encountering here is that Guild Wars 2 has a very broad spectrum of players. There's a lot of different people who want different things and play the game differently that engage with the content. So it's very difficult to create a build that will, be suited to the needs of those players. Right? Like, for example, say take your average raider, right? To survive an open world, they're going to be probably pretty okay on their raid build, right? Okay, but then again, if you do have a casual player who just does bit of map completion, bit of open world action, plays like half an hour a day, maybe they haven't really had the time to adapt to surviving on a build that doesn't really have any survivability on it at all, so they'll just kind of fall over. So I think what we have here is just two different approaches, right? I think Nike is looking to kind of create like a carry build, right? Like it's for a player knows what they're doing, they carry, and then Jaffa would kind of have builds that will be a little bit more forgiving, more survivable, more self-sustainable, not relying on the team as much, right? But still, in the same way, providing something similar, right? I think, for example, what do you think? What do you think would be better? Okay, if everyone was running if you've got 50 players running like a Jaffa build, okay, that's got some sustain on it, it's got some buffs, it buffs itself, it does decent DPS, it's survivable. What's better, like 50 of those players, okay, or like or 5 or like let's say 10 Nike builds, okay, carrying 40 plebs who just like fall over constantly because they're running like full Zerk. It's quite interesting actually. It probably
well in that situation Jaffa would be 100% right. If you had 50 people with brains running a well thought out build, yeah, that would be better than 5 intelligent people with 45 leeches. Like, yeah, like I would say at that point, run a self-sufficient build and fuck everyone else. But as far as I know, there's no build that can do perma quickness, perma 25 might, perma fury, perma alacrity on yourself. Like, and only yourself. There's no build that can do that. So if you want full buffs, you need
probably.
Power Chrono can. Power Chrono. Deadeye might be able
for
to.
alacrity.
Yeah, Deadeye
can except for alacrity. Yeah. Power Chrono can.
Power Reaper
can maintain, but cannot.
It can't do quickness. Yeah, it can't do perma quickness either.
Well, you
could. In Wells.
Dude,
You could do
Yeah, if you used like
perma-quickness, but you'll hurt your
Chronomancer
build.
runes and like 4
no,
wells.
Diviner Chrono. Diviner Reaper what does it? Diviner Reaper
Yeah,
will do.
Oh my
Yeah,
god,
Diviner
Diviner
Reaper
Reaper is
with
so bad.
Chrono Rune.
That's so much wasted precision. Holy shit! Like that's just terrible. Like that's a feels bad. Like
Yeah.
They wouldn't fall over though. I don't think.
I mean, Reaper is pretty fucking good at like the base kit for Necro is really strong for the open world.
Mhm.
Like just playing a Berserker Reaper is good enough for 9. Like if someone's a new player to the game and they want to play Reaper because it sounds cool as fuck, they should, because Berserker Exotic Reaper is legit good for open world running around in personal story. Like you don't need much more than that. Even if all you do is camp Greatsword and go into Shroud when you feel it's good for RP reasons, like that's good enough. Like
It's a good casual build.
yeah, you just use your Greatsword skills on cooldown and go into Shroud whenever you feel like you need to go Super Saiyan or something. Like whatever your RP reason is, just do it, and you'll be good. Like Reaper's really busted.
Absolutely.
No, it's perfect.
Yeah.
And run Strength runes.
It's right where it needs to be.
If you're
Maybe a
that
little
guy.
more.
Yeah, it's very, very strong. In Necro is the god of open world. You can solo pretty much everything. You do decent DPS in the team situation as well. But yeah, to be honest, like I'm almost struggling to see where we actually disagree here. This is like a bit of an awkward situation in a debate. So to kind of push it on a little bit, then like Jaffa, like, do you think that if everyone was running, even if like they didn't really, if they kind of sucked on it, if everyone was running Nike's builds, would that be better or worse than the current situation?
If absolutely everyone, like a 50 man group of everyone running it.
Let me interject.
Vaguely.
I haven't
Oh, yeah, go
posted
ahead.
any of the DPS builds that I recommend, which are selfish, and that's coming on Monday or Tuesday. Will be the first.
Ooh.
Yeah,
But there are
selfish-
selfish DPS builds that I'm going to recommend because simply put,
Yeah,
there's certain professions
I'd
like
say that'd be
engineer. Engineer doesn't have a support build that I think is strong enough to warrant running over DPS Hollowsmith. Like Hollowsmith in open world is really good, and there's just no support build on engineer that you should advocate running in open world over Hollowsmith. So there, if you could somehow balance the numbers of players, then yeah, that's a different story. You don't need to run 50 Might Tempests. Like no one's suggesting run 50 Might Tempests. Like that would be stupid.
That would be kind of dumb.
But you don't need to run Condi Druid either. You can get away with an extra DPS build every 15 players because you only need to run one Might Stacker if we're talking about 50 optimal players. Like you don't need a healer, so Condi Druid, like you just don't need that. Like you should be definitely running an offensive Might creator instead of Condi Druid.
So is the real question here. So when we talk, like Nike's videos are more for the high-end in-game players, and Jaffa's talking about a lot of that too. Those that are really good with the selfish builds in open world tend not to be like the casual average player. But when we add in that group of casuals into the 50-man squad, which builds are going to become more important? The self-sustaining, going after the mechanics build, or the raid builds to support the casuals to maybe buff them enough to not worry about the mechanics as much, even if they do start to die? Like, that's the group, I guess, that really is going to hurt both sides of the equation, is the casuals coming in who don't change their build, who run soldiers, who have Knights gear because they struggle with the veterans, but now they're at this Chalk Garant, and like which builds are going to matter then, I guess. Does it become less of the high-end builds versus each other, or is it those you're going to need a little bit of both to versus those who are not running a good build at all? I don't know.
People that are going to search up the YouTube open world build, they're probably the people that aren't going to be I'm like, oh, I'm a toxic. They're probably not going to be good enough to pull it off at a good enough standard to warrant running it. They're probably going to run it, go to an open mode, be like, oh look, I'm giving might, and then they just get one shot by some random elite on the side.
So
people
here's
searching up YouTube videos aren't going to find it.
Here's the thing with that is once you're already to the stage where you're looking up outside the game resources to get better, you're already a step above the sea of people that are getting face rolled by random shit in the open world. Like, and I think I forget who said it, but someone was advocating that there should be more in-game guides, like built into the game for things, because the overwhelming majority of players don't look up anything outside of the game. They don't go to the wiki. They don't go to any build website. They don't go to YouTube. So once we're already narrowing the field down to people who go to YouTube, like we're already talking about a tier of player that's already at least, maybe they're not there yet, but they're at least interested in improvement. And that's a totally different set of player than the people that just play and don't go to the wiki, don't go to Snow Crows, don't go to YouTube, don't go to Reddit, don't go to any of that. Like that's a totally different set of player. And it's a much smaller pool, I would say.
They could have kind of what they have for PvP, how they have all those like recommended PvP builds for each class, like some of that for open world. And say, obviously, you wouldn't be able to instantly get the gear in open world like you can in PvP, but it just kind of be there as like maybe in like your hero panel, have like a builds tab, like, oh, this class, here's recommended builds that directly to kind of like, hey, this is a DPS build for raids. Here's a support build. Here's something that you could use for fractals. Here's something that's good for solo open world, and in like their own little guild panel kind of thing.
Oh yeah, I agree. Like when you use that level 80 booster, it should be giving you stuff that's appropriate to your character based on the profession that you open that you use the booster on. Like I don't think
soldiers, longbow, ranger. Hell
yeah, that's just inappropriate. Like they should definitely give you like it should be just like the PvP where you get at least a build that you can't kill yourself on like right off the bat. Like it's at least decent.
I was going to say that PvP has those default builds. They're not the best at all, but at the same time, they're better than what some people are running, which is not those builds.
Like if you use a level 80 boost on a Necro with no elite specializations, it should probably be giving you Berserker's gear. Like even if you're a new player, I would say. Like that's a pretty reasonable... because we're limiting yourself to core stats, of course, because that's what the level 80 booster is limited to.
Probably either Berserkers or Valkyrie for your Necro.
Yeah, but not soldiers.
Definitely not soldiers or knights. That's... God.
They could go a long way with modifying what the level 80 boost gives you and the traits, and like when you hit the level 80 boost, it should. I guess people don't have all the stats like all the hero points unlocked, but like it should at least give you the traits for your core class. I don't know. I haven't. Does it give you the traits? Does it give you enough hero points when you hit the level 80 boost to unlock all the traits?
All the core.
It automatically sets up your core traits as well.
So there's no argument that they shouldn't give you at least good
something decent
traits. Yeah.
Well,
I think when you level 80 boost a Necro, I think one of the default trait lines is Death Magic.
Okay, so that's a mistake. Like ArenaNet needs to look at that then and really reconsider what they're doing.
Yeah, well, to be honest, now this might be a bit controversial, and to be honest, this may affect the economy, I guess, in some ways. But I know, guys, I'm a casual gamer. Okay, right? I have over playing Guild Wars 2. They've actually got to me, okay, and I do want to make this game as accessible as possible at this point. I think we give in, okay. I really wouldn't be opposed to actually just like not good gear, like rare gear, but you could like, say if you're on your a brand new Necro. Better example of this is actually Firebrand, I think, or something like Guardian, right? Because Guardian is like a multi-role thing. You can play a Condi, you can play a buffer, you can play a power DPS, you can play a healer, right? It can do a lot of things, right? I really wouldn't be that opposed, like, to having for new players, maybe like for, if you're inexperienced, right, you can literally just select a build, right, and it will actually fully equip you, right, okay, with rare gear, not like good gear, right, not exotics or ascend or anything like that. It will give you some yellows, right, it'll give you some, because honestly, look guys, I still have nightmares about some of the screenshots I've seen in Gear Checker.
Yep, I know where you're going.
Okay,
yep.
yeah.
BGDM, Gear Checker, yeah.
When the Gear Checker was around, like, you had a lot of players in raids running rare gear, like 6 different runes, okay? Just no sigils, no trinkets, okay? And to be honest, like, that's probably
6
worse.
different runes?
Yeah.
6 different runes. My biggest regret is not having because it wasn't legal then, so we'd probably get banned. But my biggest regret is not having a stream where just ran around the aerodrome looking at people and commenting on their builds, because that would just be like content for years. Like that would be all you need.
That's like 1 in a million. 1 in a million. You'd be very surprised. Okay, it is very.
It was not 1 in a million.
Yeah.
It was like 3 out of every 10 people in your raid pug were running like random rare trinkets or missing a back piece. Just no back piece, because who needs that? You don't need a back piece. I mean, fuck it.
Yeah, but
you can only imagine what's going on in the open world. Like if that's like what was happening in raid pugs, imagine what's going on in the open world. Like, holy God.
Hey, everybody in chat, I want to say this. You can be a casual, but you don't have to be a bad casual.
Oh,
okay?
yeah. Oh, yeah.
You should know some very basic things to the game. First of all, why are you running 6 different runes? If you're doing that right now and you're listening to my voice, stop. Go to the trading post and pick up 6 runes of anything, because it's going to be so much better than what you're doing right now. All right?
The rune itself is like, hey, look. When you have this many of this rune, look at all the nice shiny things you get.
So here's what not casuals, but what uninformed players think. They think what part of your armor you equip the rune is what stat you're getting from it.
Oh.
So like the 6th stat is what you get when you put that rune in your boots. And I'm not kidding. I've heard that from people. Like whatever you put in your boots, like that's the 6th bonus that you get, because that's the 6th armor piece. Like that's real, and that's what's going on out there.
That's
oh yeah, go ahead.
Isn't that like a Guild Wars 1 thing? Like, because in Guild Wars 1, so they might be picking that up from there. So, but at the same time, they should also realize, why isn't this blue?
Yeah,
I mean they should, but also players are usually equipping gear that they found from killing mobs or looting of chests and stuff. They're not buying gear off the trading post.
Yeah,
they're playing what they found.
I think that's where, again, Guild Wars 2 being a little bit different to other MMOs comes into play, right? Like a lot of what you obtain in the open world is worthless, right? In the loot you get from the story is kind of junk, right? A lot of the time. Well, just if you want, you have to, or not exactly go out of your way, right? But you have to go a route to gear your character, right? And the route is not within the world, right? It's typically you have to craft gear or you buy gear, right? You don't do dragon stand, right? And you get, a shiny hat or a new weapon. That's just not how it works, right? And I think that maybe confuses people, and that kind of goes back to the point I was saying previously. That I got a little bit waylaid there, right? Why not just have a little drop down for new players? And if they're on their garden, they want to try out Heal Firebrand or something. It's you just unlocked Firebrand. Look at all these new builds you can play. You can play Condi Firebrand. You can play Buff Firebrand. You can play Heal Firebrand. Right? Why not just have a little drop down that will give you like a very basic set of gear that you can't sell, right? That you can't salvage or anything like that. No loopholes, and it will just let you try out that placer. Right? It will give you a competent build, and you can just go ahead and kind of have a go. Because one thing, a big criticism I have, and a lot of new players who are getting into raids, who are just getting into the game, is that there are some builds that are actually really annoying to gear, right? Like really irritating to get your hands on. Say if you want to get into raids and you want to play your Condi Warrior or something, right? Okay, you have to get Viper gear, and Viper gear is honestly a pain in the ass to get your hands on, right?
Correction.
Okay.
I want to correct you on that. It used to be.
Yeah, I don't think it's too hard anymore.
Black diamonds are no more expensive than anything else at this point. And you can, if you go to like Tarir or Oric Basin or whatever, right after the meta event ends, and you just like pick south, east, west, whatever, and you just do all the events in the chain, you will have enough tokens to buy the recipe for armor, weapon, and like I think at least one trinket. Like you can get a full set in like two metas. Easily.
Wait,
you can get the recipes, and then you can craft the shit like for like the same price as Berserker. Like all you got to do is do Auric Basin meta event twice.
You got like the Fulgurites though. You still have to do the Fulgurites, right? Though.
No. Well,
do they get rid of that?
I'm talking about exotic.
Exotic Vipers.
I mean, Ascended is a different story. Ascended, you can stat swap if you feel like it, but like exotic is what most open world players are running anyway, or worse. God forbid. But like
even getting a Synod armor today, though, and then swapping it over Vipers is much easier than it once was back when I did it for my Necro.
A lot cheaper, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Like, Trailblazers, if that uses Maguma Lilies, that's a really expensive build.
And the other one, Minstrels, is not cheap either.
That's
time consuming.
But nobody should run Minstrels. Nobody.
Wait, what do you mean? What if you want to play Minstrel Guard? What if you want to engage all defenses, dude? Like, what are you going to do then? Okay, come on. Engage
my
all
open
defenses.
world build.
But, play Marshall's Guardian. Have we thought of that? Have we gone there?
Marshall's Guardian. Marshall's Scourge is pretty good. Okay, not sure about Marshall's Guardian.
Marshall's Guardian with Firebrand runes. Come on.
Ooh,
it's a thing.
Yeah, that can work. That can definitely work. So I think let's talk about the problem here. Like what? So Nike with this build series, right? The problem you're trying to address is effectively people struggling in open world, right? Okay, it's just there are issues.
I guess so. The problem would be me showing up to Octovine and not being able to one burn south because I was doing 27k DPS and the next highest person there was doing 7k DPS. And then after that person, the next highest was 3k DPS. And so my thought process was, well, what can I do to one burn south? And the answer was not run DPS Weaver. It's run Firebrand. Because not only I'll only have to give up like 3k DPS to do it, but I'll also buff everyone around me. And my total, like if you add up my personal DPS plus the DPS that I'm buffing, we're talking like 40 or 50k DPS. Like that's just way better value overall. And the weak link to that is Alacrity, which is weak because Alacrity scales based on people using their skills. So people in open world don't use their skills besides auto attacking, really. So Alacrity doesn't carry as hard as Quickness. But running, like I still think that Firebrand is the best overall open world build because it's Fury, Quickness, and a little bit of Might, like a good amount of Might, and that will carry harder than anything else. Plus, you have Aegis spam, which can, like at Shaq Garrett, like being able to Aegis spam every swipe, like increases group DPS like out the ass. So I don't know. I guess the answer is I want to run a build that does respectable DPS and carries everyone else and boosts their DPS so that my total contribution is higher than if I ran a pure DPS build. Like,
and what do you think the root of that problem is? Right? Why do you see this filth, this casual filth before you? Like, why do you think? What is there anything in the game that is causing that problem? That causes this, lack of DPS, lack of boons?
It's just player apathy. Like you see it at Octovine where people are like, well, who cares if this was slow, or who cares if we didn't one burn? Who cares about this? Because we're still going to get our amalgamated gemstone either way. Like we're still going to loot the chest. Who cares if it took 3 minutes longer? Who cares? And I'm not saying that you have to care or that you should care. But if you do care, there's certain things you can do to make it better. and that's what you should do. If you have the ability, take it to make a difference, do it.
So is the game just too easy? Is that's kind of the question, right? Like, is it because there's just no challenge? Is there the lack of challenge within the game?
I mean, go to a Terraria event that's map capped, like not one that has nobody in it, but go to like an Auric Basin that's map capped and try to make it fail. Like, do your best to make that map fail. Good fucking luck. Like, there's almost like you can like QT tried, like they tried to troll south, and by pulling the bomb away from the Octavine, and it didn't work. Like, they couldn't do it. They couldn't overcome. So, like, you can't fail. So once you can't fail, the only way to go to progress from there is to try. Like you can't fail. So what's left? To do it better. Like that's the only way to go. Only way to go from that. If you want to move, if you want to go from that, like, I'm sure a lot of people don't care, but.
Yeah. Well, welcome to Guild Wars 2, I guess.
Yeah.
And
if only they give you an incentive for caring. That? Imagine that.
Yeah,
World v. World could use that too. An incentive to care.
Player apathy. But the thing is, like, I kind of find myself in this situation as well. I was like, well, and I used to like AFK world events because I knew that my contribution was irrelevant, right? Like, it doesn't really matter what you really do. Like, you can just AFK and it will get done eventually, right? Like, I think it's really sad. That's what Guild Wars 2 has kind of become. Like, if I play and I'm not on stream, right, where I have to actually be engaged, I'll just be like alt-tabbed out of the game, right, while it kind of plays itself. And that's I think that's a bit depressing, really. Like, in a lot of ways, I feel like Guild Wars 2 is almost like like those 3D videos that kind of play and you can kind of look around this newfangled technology. It's a bit like that, It's just playing Guild Wars 2 is optional. Like, if you can't, the game will do it. It'll play itself. Okay, is what will happen, and the game will just the game will win for you, and you don't have to you don't have to be upset about it. But yeah, I don't know. Here we go. Blame ArenaNet train leaving the station. Blaming ArenaNet at all.
So
actually, you don't.
Heartless Husk is saying sounds like typical TeaTime now. ArenaNet doesn't care. I don't think ArenaNet is the problem here. Again, it's player apathy. It's not ArenaNet apathy. ArenaNet's catering to their customers. They're doing what their customers want. So that has nothing to do with ArenaNet. It's not like ArenaNet's going, look at all these committed hardcore players. Let's force feed them shitty casual content they don't have to care about till they change their opinion. ArenaNet's not doing that. ArenaNet's going, look at our customer base. Here's what they want. Let's give it to them. That's
what mount skins.
Yeah, like that's
more
what
mount skins.
It's not an ArenaNet conspiracy. It's just 2019 gamers. Like, that's what gamers want. Like,
yeah,
Guild Wars was advertised as a casual game, so open world is going to be casual. Wow, fancy that. And so the people in open world are going to play casually. They're not going to go super try hard. So it's not ArenaNet's fault. That's what the game is. It's what it was advertised as. It's the player base that was drawn to it.
And a lot of times the casuals, especially now they're feeling like it's a game they can walk away from and come back because ArenaNet's going to give them what they want. So they're a bit spoiled in that sense. And for me, even I have found myself not wanting to play as much because there's just there's things to do. It would be a lie to say in this day and age that there's nothing to do in Guild Wars 2 still. And there's a lot to do, but I just don't feel like, even if I get rewards, it's not rewarding in the same sense anymore because I don't really have to do much to get them. And it's just not engaging enough, even on the casual side, for a lot of casuals to keep them here or to make them play, closer to Nike's level or whatever it is. We just get this feeling of just like, whatever, ArenaNet will come around to it. And they're not. They're going to stay where they're making money, and this is where they're making money. And that's probably, if they don't give us an expansion, that's why, because the expansion only gave them so much the living story can maintain. And I'm just hoping something else comes along. I would love to see a ArenaNet event, something hard to do that would give players, especially casual players like me, a chance to like finally get right back into the game and feel like we're accomplishing something, and it takes a little bit of work to do. I don't need a raid to do that. I need an entire map full of people trying to beat one thing and finding the success in it. It's been so long since they've done that, and I miss it. And I know a lot of people out there are like, it's too hard, but I don't think it would be accepted the same way. Especially if ArenaNet comes out and says, hey, we're going to challenge you again, like to quaddle or triple the triple worm or whatever, like whatever that content is, it's easy now. If you go to it, you're going to be successful, 9 times out of 10, easy. But like, I want something that's going to be introduced to us, and it doesn't have to be, a bunch of story around it. It should just be a really strong challenge they bring to us every once in a while to keep even the casuals engaged, and the rewards should be rewarding. But there's none of that, and after a while, you just get so bored trying to get the rewards at the other stuff, you just walk away. So I don't know.
Well, yeah, that's what we're dealing with here. The game is essentially trivial, and you know what, Zorric, I'm glad you've come round to our way of thinking. Ajay, we had a very similar conversation from the other side, opposite sides of the table, but now it seems like maybe we've shuffled around a few seats a little bit.
It's not an elitist versus casual thing. It's the health of the game. If you only sit around in life, it's gonna start to hurt. And if something causes you to get up and walk, you're going to enjoy it a bit more. And right now, I feel like the game is just sitting there. And we need something just to push us a bit to remind us why we enjoy the casual things and challenge. Raiders can come and help out and all that kind of stuff, sort of bring the community closer together. And the only way I can think of doing that is something much like either the Snowman Raid or a big world meta event. And if I'm probably speaking too soon. Next story episode, ArenaNet's probably like, here's this. And I wouldn't be surprised. But at the same time, I feel like the health of the game, while good, isn't great. And good can easily turn bad. And that's just my worry right now, is that the things that remind us of the kind of players we are just are no longer there. And
yeah, I agree. And I think people shouldn't underestimate the community. Like, people are like, yeah, the average player is bad. That's all well and good, but like, and maybe that's true, but like, let's say the Death Branded Shatterer had come out and was as hard at launch of the Death Branded Shatterer as Triple Trouble was at launch, where it took like 3 days for World's First, and then like took like another like week for NA First. Like that would be, if Death Branded Shatterer was that hard, like people would, I don't know if that would be better or worse, but I think it would be I would think it would have been very interesting for the game if it had come out at that level of difficulty. And it would be hard to tune it because our knowledge of the game and builds and the power creep in the game is a lot higher now. But I think it could still be done to where you could make it as hard as Triple Trouble was, where it took days to kill. But that would be pretty amazing, and then give it rewards worth doing. Like, I think people would respond to that. And I know ArenaNet's afraid to make content as hard as Triple Trouble was at launch, but I think maybe they shouldn't be afraid to do that. Like, it's completely reasonable to have something like that, and the community, I think, would come together, and it would be like a very big event. Like,
I think the biggest problem is we're overpowered, right? We're stepping into this age where nothing really challenges us, because if we do pick up a build that's better and we get good at that build, whether it's self-sustaining or just DPS, nothing really challenges us. When the Shatterer comes down, you can just DPS it to death. I just watched it on this stream. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a hard meta. It's just there.
I think that's not necessarily true, though. I think DPS is really high. That's true. But if you try and do, say, Doom or Kadim in the raids, it really doesn't matter how high your DPS is. If you don't know how to do the mechanics, you will fail. So the reason why Doom took so long to take down, it took over a day, and then the challenge mode took a week, over a week actually, is just because it was novel, right? Like, it came at you with something that no one had ever, we hadn't dealt with before, right? People weren't sure what to do, didn't know how to approach it, right? And because it was different, it really, really shut people down. Like, it was really hard, and to this date, right, because of how different Doom is, it's still like considered the hardest boss in the game, right? And the challenge mode, like, not many people. It's crazy how many people haven't done the challenge mode. Actually, I mean, it's actually, it's not even 10,000 people have done Doom CM, right, in the entire game, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. I think that if you did have a novel world boss that required a lot of communication, a lot of coordination, you could actually stump even good open world communities, right? Like even people who kind of know what the hell is going on, right? I think you'd be able to stump people and kill them, right? Of course, DPS is important. Like, it needs to have a good chunk of HP, otherwise it's just going to get farmed instantly. It will just die immediately. But I think that HP is one of the things you can actually be quite lenient on in Guild Wars 2, right? Because you want to be wary, because you don't want to limit it to people running raid builds, right? Okay, like, you don't want to limit it to people only running good builds. Triple Trouble, you can be running pretty crappy builds and you'll actually still kill it, right? Like, you don't have to run a particularly good build to beat Triple Trouble, right? But running a good build is less important than doing the fight right, if that makes any sense, right? Like, if you don't know how to do Triple Trouble, even if you have the perfect composition, you're gonna fail, right? You're gonna completely fail. You've got no hope of that. But you know, if you have like kind of crappy builds or like mediocre builds, you'll be able to do it as long as you do the mechanics right.
Triple Trouble at launch was way different than Triple Trouble now. Remember, they changed crit scaling in open world, and even if you were running a full Berserker build with spotter and banners, you were only having like a 50% crit chance. And I'm pretty sure you couldn't even crit the worms themselves. You could crit the head once you cut it off, but the original Triple Trouble worms you couldn't crit at all. So like the meta originally was to just run like soldiers or something like that, so you didn't die. Like it was a totally different story. Like, that was balanced way harder. And when they changed the crit in open world thing, and you could crit that and crit to Quaddle, that changed it completely.
Yeah, even raising the HP wasn't enough, because to Quaddle and the worms were considered structures, so you couldn't crit them. And the things you could crit, you couldn't crit 100% of the time, no matter what, especially at the time. And I remember to Quaddle, the entire strategy was you need to be wearing soldier's gear, because that's where the dead DPS is no DPS type thing came from, is because people would sit there dead. It's like Waypoint, run back, man, put on some soldier's gear. And that's what made it successful back then. But yeah, we haven't had anything like that. I just miss it.
The reason Triple Trouble is so easy now is because most Triple Trouble runs, at least on NA, every time slot the Triple Trouble spawns, there's a dedicated guild with dedicated builds to carry that Triple Trouble group with that guild commanding. So it's pretty much a guild doing Triple Trouble with the Zerg just mindlessly following. Like, you have dedicated people, 2 or 3 on each worm, be that base Ellie, take root Sylvari. They invuln block all of the husk spawns, all of the worm spawns. They invuln block all the spits, like jumping up and down inside Slothazor's hitbox with distortion. They take that and block pretty much all of the worm's mechanics. So all that people have to do is literally either run, pick up a bomb and drop it, and then DPS, or run around in a circle, pick up colors, and then DPS. Like, it just removes pretty much the entire aspect of the difficult stuff from Triple Trouble, just because this guild's there carrying it with some Gimpaz like base Ellie blocking builds.
That'll happen eventually as people learn the content. Like I remember when Doom first came out in Wing 5, like, people ran, like, the people that did greens, they all had like a teleport. Yeah. Like, everyone, you either ran a blink or merciful intervention or something, because that was just what you did, because that was the way to go. And then as people learned the fight, they didn't necessarily need that. But yeah, like, but when Triple Trouble first came out, like, people didn't even know about the blocking thing. So, like, as time goes on, people will figure out ways to min-max it. But I think they could come out with a new world boss that was tuned and scaled to the point where like you'd had to have a Discord with 40 or 50 people in it to make it happen, like reliably at first, at least. And if it became casual later on, that's fine because it's a living story and there's new maps and they can come out with more stuff.
They're not going to be able to make something that's. They're not going to be able to design something that's continuously difficult.
Of course,
no,
it's going to get to the point where it's just brain
not.
dead.
No, definitely not. Like they'll eventually become a meta, and that will be it. And they'll make it. The players will make it as brain dead as possible, and you just go from there. But as long as you come out with new stuff every now and then, like every 6 months to a year, you have like one hard thing like that can occupy people.
I think this is where it's very much the ball is in ArenaNet's court, and this comes out to the money thing, okay, and like the appealing to the community. I think ArenaNet is far too timid with regards to difficulty. Okay, now I think a really good example of this is the Snowman raid. Like this, and there are actually good stats on this because I actually saw too many people complaining about how hard this was. Okay, but on the stream. I believe that the ArenaNet does it. It was either they said it was either if you get 10 people in the instance, right, you've got a 90 to 95% chance of winning. Okay, you have an extremely high win rate. Okay, and bear in mind it wasn't even out for very long. And believe me, the community can adapt. I think again an amazing example of this is Doom. In like the first day of Doom progression, he's not here. 1UP said the boss is unpuggable. It will never be done by pugs. Target, who's Snowcrow's officer, he said it is impossible. How the fuck can you do it? Loads of people were saying that it was literally undoable. You couldn't even do the fight. It was impossible, right? But guess what? Okay, the community adapted to it, right? The community adapted to it. And also Chat Garen. Bear in mind, old Chat Garen, okay, used to be very difficult, but the player base adapted to it and was able to do it consistently. The same thing is true of Triple Trouble, of even Tequatl, right? All this sort of thing, right? Like these things have changed from really difficult to players adapting to it. Of course, there are still a bunch of players complaining about it, right? Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Loads of people are complaining about how difficult this is, how difficult that is. But I think ArenaNet should not be listening, okay, to the vocal minority. You know what I mean? There are loads of really angry people, okay, but ignore them. They're idiots. Okay. I think ArenaNet they quail. They bend the knee to a tiny percentage of players. Okay, and that's why we find the game where it is, right? I think we find the game in soup, lukewarm. It's as much as I hate to say this, right? This is one of my favorite games of all time. But Guild Wars 2 is becoming mediocre and it's becoming forgettable as well. Okay, every map is the same. It's the same fucking shit. Okay, you grind out like a meta event that's like, oh, I guess I'll just auto attack this boss to death. Okay, it's just like the story. The story is kind of cool. I'll give you that, but it's like 2 hours of content every fucking 3 months, dude. Like, oh my god. Okay, and just like it's just like, yeah, well. There's no challenge to anything, right? Like it's just okay. We'll go and interact with this thing for an achievement, right? Like, oh yeah, we'll run around in circles and collect up all these boxes on the map every single patch, right? I think ArenaNet have stripped down the game to a level of simplicity, okay, and a level of triviality that's just it's beyond belief, right? Like the game it's at the point where it's barely even a game to a certain extent, right? Like it will auto play itself, right? Okay, to a certain extent. And the story, I'm not making this up, boys, okay? You cannot fail. Okay, there is no fail state in most of the story instances, guys. Okay, if you die in that glint trial, if you even go down state in the glint trial, it will immediately res you. Like, what the fuck? It's just, oh my god, it's insane. It's not that's not a game, right? That is an interactive novel. Okay, you can play those guys; they're not even bad. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, there's absolutely
a lot of them are anime, which I know chat likes a lot.
Yeah.
And there's patches you can buy from third-party sites that will spice up the experience, if you know what I'm saying. Yeah. So all you weebs should, interactive novels is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, why is it that you always know so much about degeneracy?
In that case, because the company I work for, we're looking into doing some interactive novels. and we did a little bit of market research to see what's going on out there. And there's some really degenerate shit. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Okay.
It's invading Steam.
Yeah.
Oh, its tentacles are so deep in Steam that they couldn't get it out if they wanted.
But I'd like to kind of get Zorric's opinion on this. Actually, on that statement I just made, we're talking about the game being too easy and becoming less interactive and more just like a face roll AFK, skin fiesta, right? Like fashion war meme, gem store mount skin, blah 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 blah, nothingness. You're here, the voice of the casuals, right? The casual army. Is it finally getting to the point where even the more casual players are kind of finding that there's just they want a little bit of challenge, at least a little bit of spice in their gameplay. Who do you think ArenaNet should listen to? Should ArenaNet listen to me, or should they listen to the angry guy on the forums who says that he can't do it, so it needs to be nerfed?
A lot of times the toxic casuals are the ones that it seems ArenaNet is listening to when it's people who don't want to play the game. They want to play the visual novel. And I don't mind the story being easy. I don't even mind them picking you up. So you can experience the story. Fine. But when I go out to that map and Kalkatork is coming down on this area, it should be war. It should be areas where you can get caught in a bad situation and die. The living story should not be so much a freebie. Here's what you get every time it launches. There should be some challenge, and the achievements and everything should matter, right? Your build should start dictating if you're going to survive on this map, or you're going to need to be sticking with people and that kind of stuff. Even for the casuals, it's become so boring because the more time you spend in the game, the better you're going to get, no matter what. You have to be toxic casual to not get better at this game. And right now it's just to a point where it's a 2-hour special for a single player game every 3 months. And, here's a fractal, here's a raid. I don't think that's going to be healthy for the game, especially when people, in 2 weeks, they're gone. The map starts to empty out. The only reason they're doing the meta is because maybe an achievement makes them stick around. You got the achievement hunters. You got people that maybe want the weapon skins right now. But I think Thunderhead Keep, that entire map, could have been great. But then you separated the metas out into 2 different areas. And then, you gave all these weapons and stuff to us just to beat it. It's literally spam your special action key to win. And it's just I like casual content, but I don't like being babied along to a point where now all right, I did the story, that's the greatest part, and now we just get a bunch of fluff, and then you get into the nitty-gritty, you start finding the bugs that they didn't catch and all that stuff, and start finding achievements that they didn't even test, and they didn't test it, because there's no way anyone can sit at 10% HP when the game tells you don't die, and then you have to go kill 5 creatures, and you're searching through the map wondering, do I have to use the axe here? And they're not giving you information in the right place, but they babied you along through the story, so it should be easy, but it's not. And here we are as casuals just going, this is just a mess, and I want to play with people, and I want to experience a story, but at the same time, if you give us something, it has to be refined to the point where it's not just run around this level 80 map and do 4 hearts and have a great day. It has to be something more. And for casuals, we have other things to do, but it should take us longer than a couple weeks to get a majority of anything done. But it shouldn't be busy work either. It should be something we want to come back to because it is fun to do. The only thing that I really found interesting was maybe those rooms, but even that was messed up. And so it just detracts and detracts. And, if we go back to episode 3 of this living story, that is a big indication of why did you send this out? Why is this here? And now episode 5.
Corno one? The Beetle? The Beetle was great, but literally everything else was hard trash.
It was the Beetle was injected into it because they knew how bad it was.
The map was really fucking bad. It had vast expanses of area that had literally nothing in it. Nothing. No hearts, no events, no races, no nothing. Like, and you didn't even go there in the story. It was like, why is this even here? Like
that was the Beetle BMX course, okay? That was quality content.
I mean, the Beetle was sweet. Like, that was the only good thing. Like, in that whole the meta event was like half-assed. Like, that was why that entire Living World team got a bad reputation because of that map. Like, that's why everyone's like, oh nope, it's Team 3. Here we go again. Team 3's due. Like everyone was like really worried because they fucked it up so bad. Like,
I really feel like they just didn't finish it. Like the team itself had to get pulled into different areas of the game, but they were like, "Oh yeah, still finish episode 3." And then they got to a point they're like, "This is gonna have to be released," and they're so like, "Oh, we'll give you another week." And then the next week it comes out, and you're like, "This still ain't finished." Like, it's blatant. Like, I'm killing things. It's not dropping loot or experience. What is this?
The bad part was, like, you look at the meta event in Korna where it was like attacking the fortress or whatever, and there was very obviously meant to be 3 lanes, and there was 1 lane that was open, and it didn't culminate in like any sort of epic boss. Like, it was so obvious that it was meant to be 3 lanes, and then after those 3 lanes are cleared, culminate in an epic boss fight with all 3 lanes. And it didn't do that. Like, it was just so you could like look at the map and know that it was supposed to be that, and they just didn't have time to do it.
Yeah, don't even give us episode 6. Just go back and finish episode 3. So
oh no, give us episode 6, please. Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, like, do we need it at this point?
We do. Because
we've lost.
No.
Dragons win. Tyria blows up. Guild Wars 3. Let's do it.
What we need to know, you know why we need episode 6? Because episode 6 is going to tell us if I need to quit the game or not, okay? Pretty much.
Oh, you mean Wing 7, maybe?
Well, it's not just Wing 7. I predict that the episode 6 is going to involve, they're going to tell us something, right? Okay? They're going to say, hey, look, we're doing a surprise expansion, guys. Wow. Or, hey, check out Guild Wars 2.5. We're doing that. Or, hey, there's going to be some new elite specs. But to be honest, if there's no new elite specs, no expansion, no Guild Wars 2.5-esque kind of thing, where it's like, yeah,
you don't want 6 more of what we just got?
But honestly, if it's 6 more of what we just got, then, I mean, oh, God, I'm not going to be able to stay awake that long, boys. You know, like, it's
6 more Kornas.
It's gonna be Guild Wars 2 for mobile.
I'm really excited for episode 6 because honestly, I think we are going to see. They're going to show us the future, right? They're going to tell us what's going to happen, what their plan is, I think. And that happens at the end of the story, right? Like, at the end of the living story, you get a cool cutscene and it tells you something, right? You know, ooh, that sort of thing, right? And there'll probably be some kind of epic announcement because, like, it's the end of the series. Wow. You know, whoa,
surprise expansion.
Yeah, I would love it, okay? I would love it. Surprise expansion.
Elite specs would be great. Like, even if
we're desperate for elite specs right now,
even if they were like, 5 episodes, but we're gonna give you 9 elite specs over those 5 episodes. Like, get ready. Like, okay, I'm in. I'll be here. I'll stick around for those elite specs.
Yeah,
you got me.
I think,
especially for free. Come on, that's an expansion worth of content for me.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. I think new elite specs, new ways to play will be huge. Actually, that's what I'm kind of most excited about because I think a lot of the communities in the game it needs to be fresh, right? And this is particularly the case for PvP and World versus World because, oh boy, I mean, look, guys, I don't really speak for the PvP boys, but I think it's fairly safe to say that you guys are really fed up with playing Firebrand Scourge, okay, for 1.5 years now, okay? And it isn't going to go anywhere until you get either massive balance changes or an expansion, right? So it's, I don't know, there you go. There you go. It's that's why episode 6 is a huge deal. It's a massive deal. And to be honest, I think that in order to kind of make the game better, like, will this necessarily make more money? Like, talking about this is really weird, guys. Like, come on, guys. Like, ArenaNet care about the game, okay? They don't just want money. They want to make a good product, guys. Okay, right? At the end of the day, as a game company, they're obviously very attached to it. They want to make it good, okay? And I think the way to make it better is to actually give some punch to it, right? Like, right now we're getting very watered down, limp wristed, like floppy goop, right? Okay, and it's not satisfying players anymore. Okay, it's not, especially the veteran players who have been around for forever, right? It's not satisfying people, and I can imagine that will eventually lead to a drop in sales. Like, mounts were a nice gimmick, well played, well played. And they did extremely well off that. The skins, cosmetics, like microtransactions, that sort of thing. That's huge right now, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with that. Game's got to make money, right? There's no sub fee. The game is cheap as well, right? Like, if you buy Path of Fire, it's not. You can buy both of them for about less than full price, actually, less than $60, I think. I want to say, yeah, it's like $50. $50, right? So it's less than full price for both expansions, right? Okay, so it's a lot of content for $50, right? And there's no subscription fee or anything like that. And yeah, I really think that the devs need to, ArenaNet, like whoever's making the decisions about the direction of the game, I do think that we've seen the game drift away from perhaps what a large percentage of the player base wants, because I do think that ArenaNet have a tendency to focus in on the negativity, right? Like they will see this negative comment and they will just completely shut down, right? Okay, and it's very true with regards to communication, because there was some backlash to ArenaNet making promises, actually giving us any level of communication, right? They completely stopped it.
because Jessica Price, they don't do Reddit AMAs anymore. That's the reason why they don't do Reddit AMAs anymore. Is because of her. Like, come on, like, bring it back. Yeah. She's gone.
I did wonder what happened to those, actually.
She doesn't even tweet anymore. Yeah. At least nothing.
I think there's a Reddit post right now that says "Bring back the Reddit AMAs."
Yeah.
But honestly,
if they do AMAs on both forums and Reddit at the same time, I don't think that would be too hard. And I think it's fair to those who like Reddit more, and then the official forums have something there for people to read who don't like Reddit. I mean, options are always great.
I think their big problem is that they have prioritized like releasing on the set schedule. And so as a result of having to do a new living story every 3 months, they're all very cookie cutter.
Yeah.
Because it's easier to develop when it's a cookie cutter. It's like, okay, this map's going to have 4 hearts. Okay, this map's going to have a collectible armor set. Okay, this map's going to have a collectible weapon set. Like, it's very predictable. Like, I already know the next map is going to have a legendary greatsword, and I can guess the recipe within one material. Like, I'm not sure which gemstone it's going to use, but I know what the legendary greatsword's going to have. Like, the hearts are going to be predictable. Like, each heart's going to have a mini. Each heart's going to have like either a gathering tool of some kind. Like, it's so cookie cutter, and the art direction is like amazing on the maps. Like, everything's amazing. Like, visually, it's amazing, but like the maps themselves are very predictable. And the predictability is what's making it stale. Is that, like, I know we're not going to get another Triple Trouble that's super difficult on the next map. Like, I already know. Like, there's no point in even conjecturing, because we know we're not going to get that. We're going to get, at best, we're going to get Thunderhead Keep, like, again. Like, so like it's just predictable. Like, that's the main issue, is that you already know what the next map is going to be. Besides visually, everything but visually, we know what it's going to be, like what it's going to have, or what it could have.
Yeah, I think that sums it up perfectly. Honestly, I do. I think that ArenaNet have accidentally got themselves stuck in this almost like this rhythm of just like it. I know it's not actually like this, but it gives the impression that the game is on life support in a way, right? It's like, okay, they're just ticking over, right? They're just doing the same thing. Yeah, here's another map. It's got some different color enemies on it, and get your shiny sword, like vaguely shiny sword. I mean, it's just that's just how it goes, right? And everything else falls by the wayside, right? Like, the resources aren't there. Like, it certainly seems like, judging by like the scale of the story instances, there were obviously a lot of effort that was put into the story instances, and at the rate of updates we see for literally every other game mode, it's very clear where the resources are being assigned, right? And you have to hope that something major is in the works, right? You do have to hope that, and well, I certainly do, because if there's nothing, if we don't really hear anything after episode 6, then fuck, I can't say this, man. And me, like, Then, to be honest, that's kind of when I would even me, I'll start to give up hope. Then, okay, if we don't hear anything after episode 6, right? If there's no major announcement or plan or roadmap, and something like that, then that is even gonna make me, okay? I fucking play this game every day, like 5 hours a day, okay? Even I will start to fold and crumple over at that point. Okay, all right. Right now, still hopeful. I mean, I'm one of the guys. Right, you guys can laugh at me later for this one because this is maybe a bit of a long shot. But I'm still of the opinion that they're going to introduce specializations, new elite specializations during the next series, living story. Right?
I think they have to.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
If they don't, they're just killing themselves. Like. Honestly, if you look at it, the balanced team is the one team at ArenaNet that hasn't had any turnover. Like, it's still Carl, Robert G, I think, and Uranio. Like, it's still the same 3 dudes, and it's been the same 3 dudes for 3 years. So, like, that's the one dependable team. Like, they should be able to get a new elite specs out. Like, they're the only ones that haven't been poached by Amazon yet for some reason.
Yeah, there's a lot of concerns about the balance of that, but honestly, I think it's a casual game. Throw balance to the wind, right? Just have fun, right? I honestly think that Guild Wars 2 should. Now, this is going to be controversial. It's time just to kind of throw caution to the wind, in my opinion. I think we need big
PvE only skills. Like Guild Wars 1.
Oh, I actually think that was a really bad addition to Guild Wars 1, actually. But.
Yeah,
that
Ursinway, didn't hurt. Like Ursinway fucked the game so bad.
No, I not that, but I think there should just be big, bombastic, fun mechanics thrown into the game. You know, that for players just to have fun with. Okay, and if it's kind of broken, hey, at this point, you've got like 25 people tryharding PvP. Who gives a fuck? You know, like, come on. It's just, and in terms of raids, I mean, come on. Like, even the fucking dungeon record scene is like more alive than the bloody raid scene at this point. Okay, like it's time to realize what our priorities are here. Okay, the priorities should be fun, engaging content, and big memes. Okay, and stuff that players are gonna love and have fun with. Right? Okay. And yeah, so I look, if anyone from ArenaNet happens to see this, guys, go all out. Make the most zany, crazy ass, amusing specs ever and hit us with it, okay? Because let's have some fun. Let's get some crazy stuff going. And hey, like, you can always hit it with a Nerf hammer if it goes wrong, right? Like, I think ArenaNet is so scared of putting a foot wrong. And I understand that. I understand being failure averse. Believe me, okay? Fear of failure and fear of getting things wrong is actually like it's a really big thing. You know, it's a serious thing and it's something that has to be overcome. But I think that ArenaNet just got to say, you know what, we've got to do something. Let's go big. Let's go fucking hard. If we mess up, we can fix it. Okay, job done. You know what I mean?
I mean, fear of failure in year 2 of your MMO is different than fear of failure in year 7 of your MMO. Like, if they do something so bad that it kills the game, like, okay, like, how much longer did it have to live anyway? It's like telling someone who's 90 years old to kill themselves and they do it. Like what's the loss there, really? Like, let's be serious. Like that person was on the way out. Like, come on.
Yeah, and that's kind of the sentiment I would express as well. You know, just take a punt, right? You know what I mean? I mean that was quite an analogy there. But yeah.
That went from here
to
up there really quick.
Yeah, it is what it is, but
yeah, it's yeah, just take a punt on it, to be honest, and just see what happens.
Go big or go home, like my comment about suicide. Whatever. Hey, seniors need options, is all I'm saying.
Oh my god.
It's funny. Come on, Benji. Come on.
Oh my god. Okay.
All right.
Sometimes Nana wants to check out.
All right.
And she doesn't want to hang around this cruel world.
Okay.
Jaffa, you have won the debate. The whiskey
Oh, yeah.
also has won the debate.
Okay. Jaffa, do you have any thoughts? Any overall thoughts on kind of the state of the game? Like, we haven't got your opinion on this. What do you think? How can ArenaNet save Guild Wars 2? Are you happy with Guild Wars 2 right now? Many questions. Can we get some answers? Let's find out.
I think it's all right. Like it's a decent game. I think we need more fishing. That fishing was high quality. It was high quality.
Yeah.
I must admit. And maybe some boats. I like boats. They're nice. We had some boats in the Labyrinthian Cliffs with the Zephyrite Sanctum there. There was a boat walking, zooming around the map. That was kind of cool. I think if we could have player owned boats, that'd be kind of nice. You can get all your home instant nodes on your boat and just boat around the place. And yeah, I think if we got those three things, fishing and boats, it'd be a nice game.
Fishing and boats.
Man,
Yeah,
the casuals would have a heyday.
Yeah, like the casuals would be so like. Imagine if like the casuals like, oh, mounts are too hard to get. Just give them a boat, and like open up the sea, like up north past Holbeck. Open up the sea, go see bubbles, and they have to have a boat.
Ah. I mean, it's one way of doing it. I can see some aquatic stuff being reworked, right? Yeah, I can see it.
Someone just mentioned in the Twitch chat they can get boat skins as well.
Oh my god, that's a good idea.
That's some income. Get the boat skin,
and you can have it pulled by the skimmer as well. Like you're pulled around by the skimmer.
Of course.
If they have fishing, they can also do different types of fishing poles skins too.
Ooh.
Yes,
like
guys. Legendary fishing.
Yeah.
Remember when the devs said they had an idea for 500 jewel crafting and they had like a plan for 500 not artificing, but jewel crafting and cooking like to 500 and they never implemented it? Like, come on. What are we waiting for?
What?
Blow my mind.
Do you remember Gen 2 legendary weapons, each with a story, Nike? Like each with a little quest?
Yeah, but the scope got a little out of hand on that.
Do you, oh man, do you remember legendary armor? Okay, yeah, I remember that. You remember 6 raid wings a year?
Whoa!
Yeah.
Hell yes.
I never believed that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was obviously very ambitious, but yeah. Oh boy.
It's on the table.
Yeah, it's all on the table. Like so many things.
If they did Final Fantasy level raids, like where it was just like a boss in a circle in like a nondescript room, like they could do 6 raid wings a year. Like that would be no problem. Like all you have to do is put a boss with interesting mechanics in a blank room. Like that they could do 6 a year of that. That's no problem.
I tried to talk a little bit about that in the video I made about the snowman layer, right? And I think it's a really good point. The secret of the snowman was like primarily made by an intern, or so they said on stream, right? Like so, for a start, hire that guy, but also, hey, why not make more raid content like Secret Lair of the Snowman? Like it's actually more intricate than some raid bosses, right? Like, I'm not even joking. I crunched the numbers on it, and yeah, it's true. It's very easy, right? And but if you just scale
almost
them up,
impossible to die.
Yeah, it's you'll get it done. Like, it might take a while, but you'll get it done. Eventually, no matter what.
We tried to wipe some random pug group. We just had the snowball sitting in the middle. No dedicated healer. No one died. Like the main death mechanic just sitting on everyone and no one died.
Yeah, the snowball ticks are about 1k damage or something, right? It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that scary.
Can evaporate that, no problem.
Yeah, it's not so scary. You could probably just AFK and it would eventually die. So you have to pick up the snowballs and throw it there, right? But yeah, I don't know. It's like it seems that the focus of ArenaNet is a bit odd. Would you actually be happy with that kind of content? Absolutely, yes. Look, when I'm fighting Kadim, right? Like it's a nice bonus that he's a very pretty boss and the environment is amazing. And it probably took them an incredibly long time to develop and make it that good. Okay, but at the end of the day, like what makes Kadim fun and the content engaging is the fact that it has mechanics and has some challenge to it, rather than how pretty it looks, you know? Mythrite Gambit is the absolute epitome of this. It is the most insane overkill I have ever seen. I can say this, I think without exaggeration, that Mythrite Gambit is probably the most ambitious map in all of Guild Wars 2. Maybe it's not like the longest, I don't know how long it took them to actually make, right, compared to other maps, but in terms of the actual environment, it is the most outrageous, extreme, and intricate and amazing environment in the entire game. Seriously, it is absurd. It's got like a massive, like treasure mound with a giant beam falling in from the Mystic Forge. You've got massive mountains of gold with gems like flying jugs all over the place. A maze of sand portal, gardens and stuff, right? And like a huge castle as well, with the Mystic Forge as well, with loads of custom stuff there. It's ridiculous. It's actually insane. It's insane. It's
have all the moving platforms in the fight. You can actually stand on moving platforms with collision.
Yeah, that actually works.
That was kind of new.
And that's a mechanic, so I think it's fine to do that. But yeah, we talked about flying jugs, so we summoned Georgius. There we go, dude. Okay, it's yeah. There you have it. But I don't know. It's quite remarkable. I think you could make simple environments. For example, I think I could enjoy Freezy a lot. No, cancel that. Freezy could easily be a full-fledged raid boss if he was tuned up. 100%. Not a particularly difficult one. Okay, but he could be a raid boss. Like, the mechanics of the fight are not that hard, right? It's not a very punishing fight. That's okay, though. Not every boss has to be hard. You can have a boss like Ken, who's not a particularly difficult boss, or Mercer Overseer. Again, not a particularly difficult boss. That's absolutely fine, but it's still a raid boss, right? Nonetheless, and it might take you a few tries to take it down, and I think that's a lot of fun, and you can get good at it and try and do it as quick as possible. Big DPS. Maybe there's a challenge mode to it that makes it really hard. Maybe there's like everyone gets a snowball, so everyone has to run around the entire time, right? You can't stack because everyone has got a snowball permanently chasing after them. Like, now you're talking. Like, now you've got a fight on your hands, like crank up the DPS, crank up the damage, loads more HP. Okay. Now we're in business. Like, there are things that could be done to make that fight difficult, even for the most, grizzled raider. It doesn't have to be, super easy. But anyway, let's. We were slightly diverting there. We were talking about like the game and like boats and shit. Like, what? And like, guys,
Boats are the meta.
We start on open world debate, okay, and we end up on boats. Yeah. That's good. That's good. And do we have anything else anyone else to say with regards to any of the topics we've discussed? Because I think that's kind of approaching the end here, I think. No?
Just run a build that's appropriate for how you play the game. Like, and put thought into it. Like, as long as you put thought into it, that puts you ahead of 90% of the people. So please just put some thought into what you're doing, and you'll be better than you'll be a leg up. That's all that matters. just put some thought.
If you read what your traits are, you're already ahead of 70% of the community.
70%.
Like a very, very high majority of the community do not read traits.
Maybe a little bit higher. No, higher than that.
Percent damage modifiers are really good. Like, I remember when Guild Wars 1 or Guild Wars 2 first launched, I was like, 10% damage. Who gives a shit? I was like, that's nothing. Like, why would I care about 10% more damage? And then I realized that that's like the best thing you could possibly have in the entire game. So, like, you just gotta learn what's good.
And don't be afraid to ask. A lot of people out there, like this community, even though there are the elitists and the toxic elitists and things out there, and there's always be the trolls. Look at Chad. I mean, like, just ask. You'd be surprised someone would be like, oh, no, take this trait instead of this one. And the next thing you know, you're doing like 1.2k DPS more. Because it's that simple in a lot of builds to get a little more DPS. Is simply trading out a trait that, yeah, maybe it does give you some survivability, but if you take the other one, you're going to get a lot more damage out of it. And like, making a good build isn't hard, making a better build is. So, in a lot of times, like when you get to that point where like I'm just not understanding this, ask. There's a lot of information out there, and there's a lot of people who will answer your question happily because they want you to be better too. And let alone, a lot of you out there are better players than you realize. You just have to get confident enough in your skin to be like, this is what I do. How can I make it better?
If you're watching this on YouTube or on Twitch, you're already better than probably 90% of the community. So you're pretty much there, I would say, as long as you can like be conscious of what you're doing. Yep. Also, from a content creator perspective, there's at least one video's worth of traits like parasitic contagion, where you can make one trait change and gain like massive amounts of survivability in a build. So there's little things that can have big effects like that. So any content creators out there, feel free to step up and make that video for people about, because there's times where you don't want to trade survivability or damage for survivability. Like you don't want to go from berserker gear to soldier gear just to get tankier. But if it's a difference between taking Lingering Curse versus Parasitic Contagion, well, then maybe that's a trade that's a lot more worthwhile to make. So there's probably a whole video worth of content there.
There you go. Big content. Oh, well, I guess all I've got to say to kind of conclude the topic is you can play how you want. You absolutely can. I am of the belief that you can make a build work with any weapon and any class you like. As long as you think about what abilities you use, you read them, you think what type of gear you need, what traits you should have, maybe a few good utilities, maybe some of that. And most important thing, guys, okay, this is number one. Always keep attacking, okay? Always keep attacking, and you will do better than 90% of everyone else just right off that, okay? So there you go. I think you can play however you want. I think we've come to a beautiful consensus, guys, okay? When you watch a build video, make sure you understand what the content creator is saying, what it's for, and that goes for everything, guys. If you see a build on Meta Battle, on Snow Crows, on Gods of PvP, wherever you're looking, make sure that you read it and you understand what it does, what your job is when you play it, and also how you can best do that. There we go. Use the big brain, and you guys are going to have a fantastic time playing how you want in Guild Wars 2. Also, ArenaNet, fucking let's go. Come on, we need content now. Hook me up, okay? We're going to need that, okay? Need it now? I need announcements. We need balance patch Tuesday. Let's go, please. Please and thank you. Okay, nice. Jaffa, do you have any final thoughts?
Games are played for fun. Play the game so you have fun. If you're not having fun playing the game, maybe try something different. That's
good advice. I like that. That's very good advice. All right, now it's the shilling time. Okay, now it's time for the shilling. So you know what? I think we're gonna go with our debaters first. Okay, Jaffa, just go around again. Okay, who are you? Tell us a little bit about yourself. What kind of content you make, and why you won the debate. No, you don't have to do that part. Okay, that's fine.
I'm Jaffa. I'm from Australia, so if I seem stoned like people in chat have mentioned, it's because I woke up at like 4:30, okay? I'm tired. I sometimes make videos, I sometimes don't. Most of it's either chrono-related rotations and stuff, so after balance patches, if you want to figure out how to actually play Mesmer again, because, you know, they always change chrono, you can usually find an update at least 1 week after the patch on how to play Chrono again. But that's about it. I just make the occasional video.
All right, and then diagonally across the room, okay, his opponent, Nike Open World Build Master. Okay, What are you up to these days?
Well, these days, I'm playing Guild Wars 2 how I want, which is raiding whenever I feel like it, and doing open world whenever I feel like it, and not playing whenever I feel like it. And I upload videos on my YouTube channel from time to time. Lately, I've been working on a series of open world builds that I recommend for meta events. Starting next week, we'll be getting into the DPS, more selfish DPS build side of it. since we've got the support builds kind of out of the way. And alternatively, I've been streaming Zwift, which is a cycling training game, like 4 or 5 days a week, including racing. And it's been getting very competitive in the PvP section there.
Ooh.
So it's the most competitive PvP game in all of gaming. I will say that, like, without a doubt. So if you are intrigued by that, check that out. And I also have a cycling YouTube channel, which I'll link in chat.
Oh, there you go. Cycling. Get in on that action, guys. Be sure to subscribe to...
I need 10 more subs to get to 100 so I can have a custom URL. Ooh. So that would be helpful.
All right. So be sure to subscribe to both those guys. And then with me, the other innocent bystander to the massacre that we saw unfold today, the bloodbath. It's Zorric.
Yeah. I'm angry, Zorric. If you don't think I'm angry enough here, that's because they asked me to tone it back. They threatened me with fines and stuff. So you can find me on Twitch at Angry Zorric, or you can go to my YouTube. I do Black Lion chest openings. I post those there. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subs. What else can I shill here? You can follow me on Twitter. I'm trying to get to 300 people there. Been trying to do that for 2 years. But pretty much you can find me on Twitch. My health hasn't been the best, so I'm off and on right now, and I apologize. But I do a lot of Guild Wars 2, of course. Try to do it at least once a week. But right now we're playing through the Final Fantasy core game series. We've done 3, 4, 5, and 6. We're on 7. And then I play other things once in a while, but yeah, for the most part, I dive deep into the Guild Wars 2 community, and you can always find me Twitch, Discord, whatever, and you can always ask me questions, whatever you need. And sometimes you'll find me on other podcasts and stuff like
right now.
TeaTime.
Yeah. Fantastic. Okay, and then finally, it's me, guys. If you enjoy raids, discussions, me roasting the game, okay, particularly that right now, then wow, oh boy, have I got a treat for you guys. You're going to want to hit that follow button right now. You're going to want to subscribe on YouTube, watch all the tea times. If you want, look, guys, if you want to just hear like 100 hours of me and the finest minds in the Guild Wars 2 community, just like memeing the game, okay, and just like roasting constantly, then I've got one hell of a treat for you guys. You could listen to the tea times to the point where you forget the previous tea time and you can listen to it all over again. You can have it on loop permanently. Okay, that could be you. But yeah, hit that follow button, guys. Subscribe to the stream. Give me that cash. Big donations, obviously, guys. Okay, support my gem addiction, that Black Lion key addiction. Subscribe on YouTube. Boom. Envelope opening video. Okay, follow on Twitter because I also, like every streamer, I have an obsession with Twitter followers that I need them. Gimme. But yeah, that's going to be all for us, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. Be sure to follow, subscribe, support all of these fantastic content creators. And a special shout out to Jaffa for coming up for the idea of this one, and honestly to Nike for agreeing to do it. Okay, it was certainly a little bit spicy at the start of it, guys. And yeah, we'll see you guys all this next week. Hopefully we get some interesting news about the world versus world stuff. But yeah, that's basically it for us now. Thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Subscribe with Twitch Prime.
Subscribe with Twitch Prime.
Subscribe with real money. Even better. $25.
Those are some words to end on, guys.